Have you ever needed to take a step back, ponder your situation, take time to heal, plot your way forward? You are not alone. We're in week 2 of The Struggle is Real, and in our preaching text today, we're witnessing a hero of the faith at a low point in his ministry. His past and his present were colliding. What would the future bring? Would he have one at all? This was a pivotal time for Elijah. Now, I've often heard it said that we are wired to remember the pivotal moments in our lives, like it was yesterday. You know, moments like where we were when big events in the world happened. The good and bad things that we've experienced in our lives, they can play on flashback. The small details, like who we were with, even if we haven't seen them in years. The time and location, what we were wearing, an aroma that triggers our senses. I'll be honest, I can't remember what I did earlier today, but I can remember those pivotal moments with confidence. Some I'm happy to remember, and some, if I'm honest, I'd rather forget. In our preaching text today, Elijah was remembering the pivotal moments in his recent life while taking a step back from the routine that he was accustomed to. This is what he's experiencing. Well, most of the events that we remember are more important, or at least more notable in the footnotes of time, like 9/11 or a wedding day. A recent event that stands out to me as pivotal was the day that I signed on to be a preschool soccer coach. You see, this was a season of life where 4 and 5-year-olds made me feel the way that I make some of you feel. Now stick with me. It was a time where in caring for others, I was actually caring for myself. It was a time where in the midst of pandemic, my cup was dry and it needed filling. Coaching soccer helped me be a better spouse, parent, and even pastor. What's your outlet for recharging and being refilled? There are certain comparisons to coaching and pastoring that actually are transferable. Maybe you saw a video recently with our call committee chairperson getting coached through a CrossFit exercise. Now, it is okay for me to mention CrossFit because I've never done it, and I never will. The video created to open your imagination to what it could look like for God to use you to lead others in faith formation, possibly even as a future staff member at Good Shepherd, is really for you to imagine what God could do in your life. Here's the gist of it. If we're honest, we need to be taking steps to grow in faith. Honestly, whether we're the coach or the one being coached, we need other people in our lives to grow, to stay focused, and be on our game. If we're not, we become stagnant. We become spiritually tired. If we're hoping to someday flex our spiritual muscles, like our search committee chairperson, Jason Hagelstrom, committing to training is key to seeing results. If we don't connect with God regularly, we shouldn't be surprised when it's difficult to pray, to praise, to grow in faith, disciple, and evangelize. Like the workouts he was subjected to for the first time, it was a bit overwhelming to watch, and I'm sure even more overwhelming to experience. Like missing church for a season or jumping into a small group, it can feel risky and stressful to come back and join. But when we do this, over time, it becomes easier for us to do. We might even enjoy doing it so much that we set aside time to do it, because we're seeing results, because it's making us healthier. And this draws in the attention of others, hopefully in healthy ways. What are you doing differently? How can I follow this regimen and see similar results? The first step to progress is a commitment to shedding, not just weight, but the things that weigh us down. Now in Lent, we often say it's a season of shedding the things that distract us from God and our relationship with God. Or maybe it's a season where we commit to adding something to our routine that will help our overall spiritual health. Sometimes it's something we know we need. Sometimes it's news to us. No matter how you're awakened to this change, I invite you to embrace it. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't hope somewhere deep down that no one else would have volunteered to coach this soccer team and that I would have to do it. I might have even bought some soccer nets on Amazon a week before I was asked to coach. It's true. And sure enough, the email came a week before the season, and it said that in order for us to even have a season, one of us was going to have to commit to the clipboard and whistle. As you're sensing, I was giddy and I was ready. But here's where the story of coaching and mentoring takes a turn. I thought I was the one teaching, but I was also the one being taught. Think about that. I was the one teaching, but I was also the one being taught. You see, coaching 4 and 5-year-olds is all about redefining expectations. I had a game plan, a practice regimen. I even invested in the equipment that would help bring it all together. And this was going to help me pass on the love of the game that I grew up playing to the next generation. And for the most part, I succeeded at everything that I set out to do. But as I'm sure you've heard, winning is not everything. And this is where I needed to start redefining my expectations for what we were doing and why we were doing it, even if the outcome wasn't what I had planned or expected. And this is where Elijah enters the picture. Elijah had put the work in, but he wasn't seeing the results that he expected. His game plan needed to change for the people that he was walking alongside. Now, at some point, we start to keep score. There are winners and losers. The past few Olympics have reminded me that while we focus a ton of energy on reaching for gold, sometimes it's difficult enough to even enter the event. Whether the competition is that fierce or the skill set is that particular, the Olympics are a reminder that we're not carbon copies of each other, and we can't do everything at the same level. In fact, even the pros, the greatest of all time, struggled to meet the expectations of themselves and the rest of the world that was watching. People under the microscope, being critiqued by people that they've never met, who also couldn't do what they had set out to accomplish. Seeing these athletes withdraw from contests was heartbreaking. Seeing gold medal favorites not make the final was eye-opening. Seeing their crashes were devastating. For some of these athletes, it was the first time in quite a while where they were no longer in control, where their realities didn't match their dreams and expectations, where people we assumed were superhuman were just human, just like you and me. Now, it doesn't take a case of the yips or a wipeout to bring even the most accomplished at their craft crashing back down to earth. But the visuals of the Summer and Winter Olympics have provided just that for me. And it runs parallel in our preaching text for today. Now, there's a lot happening in the story that we're hearing today. My seminary professor, Dr. Michael Chan, points out that 1 Kings 19 is the lowest point in Elijah's career. He says this: arrested by fear of Jezebel's threats, he sinks deeper and deeper into the depths of unbelief, to such a degree that even a powerful manifestation of God on earth, on par with the revelation that Moses received on Sinai, does not move him from unbelief into faith. Jezebel's threats, and not Yahweh's word, motivate Elijah's actions, to the point that Elijah's career comes to a somewhat anticlimactic and tragic end. You see, things are not going the way that he expected. And it's at this point where he literally flees to hide, rather than continue to boldly be who he's been up until this point. In previous chapters leading up to our preaching text, Elijah was someone that had all the promise in the world. He was somebody that had committed their time to their craft, but in doing so found themselves feeling empty, unfulfilled, not experiencing the outcome that they expected to experience, and truthfully, the outcome that God expected for them. Now, I feel for Elijah. I really do. Because of all the heroes of the Bible, I feel like he's one that the majority of us can relate to, no matter our background or circumstances. He wanted to win, but when it came down to it, he threw in the white flag. In a win or lose situation, he felt like he couldn't win. He took a seat on the bench and God put Elisha in to finish the game. And I can't help but wonder if he'd been able to reframe his situation, if he'd been coached up and mentored along the way, if he'd been able to redefine his expectations, would he have been able to better live into God's calling on his life? Elijah is often compared to Moses, but as we're seeing this play out in our scriptures, he is not Moses. Pastor Shauna Songer-Gaines puts it this way: leaders can't avoid being compared to those that have gone before them, nor can they escape comparison with the ones who will follow. In the cave, Elijah is troubled by the prophets of past and future. Moses, giver of the law, and Elisha, the one with the mantle of double portion. But in this dark and lonely place with nothing but these ghosts to haunt him, Elijah encounters the tenacious calling of the Lord Most High. Now Elijah, who's been prepping for this moment, hasn't lived into the expectations when the lights are on him. Elijah has done everything right. He didn't worship other gods. He showed God's power to the people. But he's still being pursued by people who are trying to kill him. And it really messes with him. Now I pray you never have anyone out to get you, especially physically like this, where your health and safety is at risk. But I wonder, have you ever felt under attack in different ways? By loved ones, friends, enemies, complete strangers? How did you respond to the attack? Fight, flight, something in between? Now I'm a people pleaser, a win others over kind of guy, and that can be exhausting. Elijah feels compelled to take a break from it all, not just for his safety from those out to get him, but for himself. And like the psalmist in Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Elijah lets his feelings be known. He talks to God boldly. Now, I've been faithful when other people haven't been, and yet this is where I find myself in hiding, and you come to me asking me what I'm doing, not once but twice. I'm here, God. I'm alone. I'm angry. I'm fearful. I'm tired. And I'm done. Pastor Songer Gaines points out that Moses and Elijah went to the same place, but for different reasons. Well, Elijah begs God to take his life because he's so discouraged by the faithlessness of Israel. Moses goes up to the mountain hoping to atone for the sins of the people. And atonement, as Moses knows full well, requires a sacrifice. And Moses was prepared to lay down his life for the ungrateful people he led out of Egypt. Elijah was so fed up with these comfortable quasi-pagans squandering the promised land that he could rather die than put up with it one more day. Moses makes his petition on behalf of the people and appeals to the presence and power of God, and Elijah makes his petition for himself and appeals to his own righteous zeal. Elijah's done. In a win or lose world, Elijah wants to just be. Gold medal? Professional? No. Give me the preschool soccer team where I can return to the basics, eat a few oranges, and rest on the sideline. I can't keep on like this. I can't be the coach. I need to be coached. I need to relearn, be refilled, redefine my expectations. And so that's what he does. And in the still silence, he encounters God. He takes time for solitude, for struggle, for space to be reminded of who he is and who he isn't. The struggle is real for Elijah, and the struggle can be real for you too. If you're struggling today in faith, life, home, work, take time for yourself to be, to breathe, to meet God in the silence. Find time to be refilled, coached up, and mentored, and be reminded that you're not alone. The game plan might look different than you expected, but God's up to something big and wants you to be a part of it. No matter your role, you're a key player, and we're glad that you're on our team. As we keep making our way through the season of Lent, I pray that you take time to rest and encounter God's mercy.